I hope you guys are ready for a couple of difficult questions, and I'm sure you will definitely provide very straight, no BS answers. And for that, I'm already grateful. But let's kick off with something that we hear quite often, is that in the first stages, investors are typically investing more in entrepreneurs than they are in the round. Do you guys think that this is true? And if yes, what does it actually mean?
I think definitely true. I remember when I was with Rocket Internet, the CEO of Rocket Internet, Oliver Samba, always said, it's not about the idea, it's about the execution. And I strongly believe that. I think all of us constantly have ideas every day. I'm sure you all do. I constantly have ideas, suddenly what would make my life easier in a certain moment. But to execute on that idea is a whole different story. So to build a startup is really, really difficult. Only like exceptional people, I feel, can really succeed in building a successful startup because there's so much resilience that you need to put into it. So I definitely agree with that statement that it's about the team, the founder or co-founders. Many people come to me and they share an idea and they say, please don't tell anyone. And I always feel it's okay to share your idea. It's okay to get feedback from other people because, I mean, that's how you test your idea in the first place before you start building. So really, so to the audience now, if you're wanting to build a startup and you're afraid to share your idea, really do not be afraid because executing it is a whole different story. And nobody else has the passion for it like you do. So definitely, yeah, I think it's about the team.
I'll throw something different if you want. Of course, the team is important, but everything, the trend is your friend. If you go against the trend, you could risk everything. And you know, there's an era for everything. There was the mobile era, then there was the blockchain era. Last year was the gaming era. Now it's the COVID or the post-COVID era. You need to follow that trend. If you try to fight it, you got to work twice as hard.
Well, I also agree with the statement. So basically, I personally give a lot of importance to the human touch, you know, especially in the early stages. So things like founders feed, founders investor feed, it's really important. The hands-on aptitude, right? The resourcefulness, the level of resilience that it requires at the beginning, right? Every project. Communication skills are critical. And this is, if you allow me, this is a young ecosystem yet, you know, and it's evolving, right? So there are elements missing in my experience. For example, there are no much venture builders. So there are elements that I think will contribute to create, you know, and to give more cohesion to this whole ecosystem and to this human touch. So yeah, this is.
Nasdaq, do you have anything to add?
Well, I mean, most of it has been said. Of course, we can discuss a lot if trend really is the king. I'm not really sure. I follow the aspect of talent and problem solving, to be honest. Now, a problem can be solved somewhere in deep India, in a community, in a perfect way that nobody else can solve it, and is worth basically going into entrepreneurship, because that's what it's all about. Not every idea needs to be scalable around the world. And myself, I'm actually more working with simple entrepreneurs. But altogether, definitely the team and the execution definitely makes a major part in a traditional VC view of investing. Absolutely.
Okay. Jose, you had mentioned Founder Institute Fit, Founder Research, Investor Fit.
Investors.
Yeah. Founder Investor Fit. If I am an entrepreneur and I want to start thinking about how I can research to find that Founder Investor Fit, what do you think are the things that I need to consider?
Well, see, it's thanks for the question. It's very interesting. So basically, I would always advise to work on the predictability of the success. So meaning that there is a number of topics that you can educate yourself, you can train, you can work on them before approaching even the angels, right? So for things about like market size, market share, competitive analysis, competitive intelligence, right? Profitability, very especially at this moment. gathering this sounding team, you know. There is also another point that I would like to remark. I mean, investors we are humans, right? So we are very predictable as well. So it's important to find synergies with the investors and for the investors, right? So this is something that you can easily do by doing your own screening, right? Before approaching. Then it's also, I think I would always advise to train your pitching skills. So pitching, it's going to be your day-to-day. So you have to train that with different forums, different profiles, and always try to get honest feedback on that. Then I would say, I'll take a quote from a friend that said that one damn deal does not mean that it gets repeated, right? So focus on your own story and not, you know, in the lack of others, right? So, yeah. And then, well, I note down two more things that I would like to also share with you. I mean, you have to be ambitious, but not greedy. And a good deal today, it's better than a great deal tomorrow. So those topics are, you know, really relevant when you are, you know, in that phase of fundraising.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, on the topic of pitching, I'm sure that Kushal and Vera have seen, I mean, everybody here, but Kushal and Vera have seen their share of pitches. You only have a limited amount of time with the investor to make that first impression and to tell your story. What are your, Kush and Vera, your tips for entrepreneurs, especially now that we're pitching virtually, I think for the first time. So what's your advice there?
I bet we would need another hour for all this.
To keep it short, and Noor, because you asked to keep it really precise so the audience can take notes, I thought, I mean, first of all, before you even start pitching, it's important to do research, right? Research, segment the VCs, because not everybody invests in everything. You know, of course, there are some sector agnostic VCs as well that invest in everything. But really, if you are in food, like Jose, you know, you approach those investors who invest in food. If you are in healthcare, you approach others. So really do proper research. I think what VCs really don't like if they receive messages that don't make sense for their particular investment thesis.
Or don't meet their mandate, right?
Exactly. So I think research is really important. I always tell startups, make a list, and that's a life hack I usually share. So write a list of startups and then start from the bottom. So start with those you actually don't want, because you need to practice your pitch, right? So you need, by the time you get to your top 3, you have practiced your pitch so many times. So you'll be much better in that. So yes, research, segment them in different industries, have a clear pitch, be it a pitch deck or a pitch when you approach the person. I think it's really important also to adapt it to the situation, because whether you are in an elevator, which has to be super short, or you are at a conference where you have maybe a bit more time, or you actually have a meeting or a Zoom call. So your pitch has to be adapted to the situation to make sense. But having said that, I feel, you know, you don't have to be pitching the whole time. So it's important to build a relationship with the investor as well. That's probably even more important. And the first time you meet, not ask for money straight away, but actually share your story and then update the person over the next, you know, months or even years. And by the time, you know, they build a relationship with you, it's much easier to get money than, you know, from a cold pitch. I mean, cold pitches don't really work anyway. I think you always need to try to get an investor via an introduction or recommendation. I don't want to take so much away from Kush. So Kush, maybe you go ahead.
Well, learn from Vera. You need to smile, you need to charm us, because without charming us, it's not going to work. We want to be charmed, okay? Number one. And number two, you know, ask for referrals, because we also like to network and we like to share, hey, we met this great guy, he fits your mandate, or girl, we fit your mandate. We prefer to do that, and we do that for free, and we love doing that. So always ask for a connection. So I think those two are important. And number three, don't forget your colleagues. Sometimes people pitch as if they're the solo person, and usually you have either a co-founder or a team or other people behind you. Bring them into the discussion, even if they're not with you. The more solo you are, the more we kind of get resistant a little bit.
Okay. Mazdak, I know you work with entrepreneurs across the spectrum, not necessarily tech, but also SME entrepreneurs. What is one trait or quality that you think every entrepreneur must have, and it's non-negotiable to have a conversation about investment if the entrepreneur doesn't have that quality?
Mm-hmm. One particular one that's going to be very, very tough to take out. I mean, look, if we would be talking about entrepreneurship, like what should an entrepreneur have per se, of course you would see that, well, you know, they need to know what they're talking about. They have to have their concept clear. They need to match with what problem they're trying to solve and all these kind of things. But we're talking particularly about getting investments into a company, right? And I think you've heard now in the past minutes how much communication is a key. So I think particularly in that sector, and I'm, you know, it might be a surprising thing for me saying that, but I think you need to be a good storyteller. Okay, so a good storyteller is not somebody who only charms, but who knows his story actually, so understands all the details, who knows his audience, who knows his medium to address the audience, and actually knows what kind of outcome he wants at the end. Does he wants to have a happy end or not a happy end, right? Actually addressing people, now that can be, like in my case, a lot of FNF, friends and family, all the way to VCs and other organizations. The story needs to match to the audience. And if you have a grasp on that, who to address, in what manner, and in what technique, in which tone, and what level of charm, with Khushal it might work more, with some less, then I think you will have, you know, that little thing that keeps people immediately more, let's say, interested in listening to you. And if you have them there, it's already a big advantage.